Rob G, to kind of bring us up to speed on this next topic we want to discuss. It is an NBA topic.
That's right. As you guys know, Nikola Jokic is arguably the best player in the NBA right now, greatest player on the planet. But for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to get the kind of notoriety, nor does he seem to want the kind of notoriety a player of his caliber would deserve. And that inspired Dan Le Batard to say on one of his podcasts that essentially Jokic would be a bigger star and more beloved by NBA fans if he were American, which prompted Kevin Durant to put up a tweet, which he has since deleted for whatever reason, replying to the video saying, quote, "I don't think Jokic wants or cares to be a star. He wants to go to work and go home, FaceTime his horses, and hop in the pool."
All right. Yeah, I don't know why KD would take that down. I don't think it's, do you think that's an insulting tweet, Rob?
No, just people are so sensitive and scared, I guess, today. So I don't see anything. I get it if it was offensive. I don't see what was offensive by that. There's nothing.
I think some of it's in jest, some of it's true, but it's in jest. I'm sure Jokic would just laugh that off. But, Rob, I guess if Jokic were an American player, in this case, a white American player, if he were a white American player, Rob, let's just keep it real. It would be so unique at this point in time for the best player in the world to be a white American. That hasn't happened since Larry Bird, and that was how long ago? That was almost 40 years ago. It was about 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's also cultural. I get that. I do. I just think he's
I agree.
Right? Like, Chris, there's a cultural difference here. He's from a different country. They what they're into is different from what we're into. They're not, you're in a foreign place. I get it, right? You're in a foreign place. You're not trying to stand up on the table and have attention called to yourself. You're just out here
Your
to play.
command of the language might not, let's just keep it real.
That might make you feel comfortable
limits,
either.
Yeah,
right.
To some degree, how you're going to be. I mean, I've talked to people who've hung out with Jokic. They said he's a great guy. He's a lot of fun. But yeah, Rob, I mean, the language, he speaks English and he speaks it fine, but still, you're in a different country. It's likely that you're going to be a tad bit inhibited when it comes to interviews and your public persona and things like that. But look, I used to say, Rob, that we talked about it on our show. I wasn't sure if the face of the league could be an international player, but I've changed my opinion on that because I think Giannis could. Like if Giannis, Rob, instead of the one championship, he's got 3 right now, I think he'd easily be the face of the league. And he's got some personality. He does his little dad jokes things on social media. He's been in some commercials.
Chris, he's a Greek god body. He's a nice guy. He's got a great smile.
Handsome guy. Yep,
exactly.
Yep.
What is not to like?
Right.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
And I also think, Rob, the guy that maybe of the international players might be more suited to be the face of the league than anybody. Now, his game or his success, at least on the court, hasn't reached that level. But Embiid, Joel Embiid, like he is funny as well. He's a practical joker to some degree. He likes the spotlight. He just hasn't been able to get past the second round. Forget winning a championship. Hasn't been past the second round. So I think that hinders him. But I do think an international player can be the face of the league if they have that type of personality. Heck, Mike Trout can't be the face of baseball, and he's American. It's just his personality.
Exactly. And then he just wants to go out and play ball, Chris.
Yep.
He doesn't have much to say. And that doesn't mean that Aaron Judge is trying to command respect or, yelling at people or doing anything. He's just a different guy, right? Would you say that?
Yeah,
he's not
absolutely.
He's not that boisterous.
He's the face of the league.
Right. He is.
Yeah. And Shohei, Rob, and obviously there's the language barrier there, but again, I keep saying it. People might get mad. If he was in New York, Rob, I think he's one of the faces of the league too. He's just too good and too unique what he's doing. Yeah. So I do agree with you. It's more about the personality. I probably there's something if a guy's American. Is there? Maybe he has an advantage. Maybe. Again, at this point, we're kind of getting used to the best players not being American. I'm talking about the ultra elite. Now, obviously, you still have LeBron, you still have Steph, and you do have some great young players. Ja, for all his issues off the court, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. You've got great young players, but there's no doubt, Rob, when you talk about that upper echelon, I mean, the top 3 vote getters for the MVP race for years now have been international players. And so I think we're kind of getting used to them being the best. But when LeBron and Steph are kind of gone or just older, we might be in a phase, Rob, where there isn't that one face of the league for a few years. For a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, and it's shared by a couple of guys.
Yep.
And that definitely could be the case. And your point on them being the foreign players, the top 3 choices for MVP tells you that you just can't overlook their talent. You know what I mean? You can't pick they're the best players. And people will gravitate eventually, Chris, to the best players and the team and the players that win. It's just like I get your point with Shohei and New York and what it could do to up his profile. But if somehow he was able to win with the Angels or turn that, you know what I mean? Like people would pay attention. Yeah. And they just can't make the playoffs. So it's so hard for people to really get focused in on it. They're playing better this year. They got a record over 500. But if he winds up in Los Angeles or New York next year, Chris, it'll be the $600 million contract and Shohei all day. That's what you're.
No, that's true. That's true. But yeah, what do you think about Rob? If I brought up, if Jokic was an American, he would be a white American, obviously. Do you think that would, make a guy more popular or, intriguing, marketable, however you want to look at it? If he's like Jokic, like he's definitively in the discussion for the top 2-3 players in the world, do you think that would be a factor? It was for Larry Bird, Rob. There's no denying it. Like the fact, he was legitimately great.
Yeah, but there was controversy with Isaiah.
Definitely, yeah. Isaiah, a lot of people thought when he won the 3 straight MVPs.
Yep.
3 straight MVPs, that was because he was white. And then, you said, Isaiah and Dennis Rodman had the issues.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
What also hurt, I think, and you remember, you were watching, is that the 2 announcers for CBS back then, Chris, doing the NBA games, were the Celtics announcers.
So who was it? Heinsohn?
Tommy Heinsohn. Remember Tommy Heinsohn, who played for the Celtics, was a color guy. And why am I forgetting he does a lot of NFL games. He's retired now. Oh, my God. He's married to Leslie Visser. How come I'm Tom? Oh, God. I'll get it. But anyway, they were both, Chris, Celtics announcers during the national game. Yeah. So when Bird made a bounce pass, they went crazy. And people were like, my God, he didn't invent the bounce pass. Dick Stockton.
I didn't know he was with the Celtics.
Who, Dick Stockton?
Yeah. I remember him well. I thought he was great. Yeah. But he was a Celtic. He called Celtics games?
Yeah. I think Dick Stockton, and I know Tommy Heinsohn was their color guy.
Heinsohn, of course.
But I'm almost positive Dick Stockton. I'll look it up, Chris. I don't want to miss it.
It's interesting because Mike Breen, of course, calls games for the Knicks. Think about that, Rob. Mike Breen, this is ESPN's and ABC's number 1 team, right? Mike Breen, Mark Jackson, and Jeff Van Gundy. Van Gundy coached the Knicks. Mark played for the Knicks twice, 2 different stints. Is from New York. and Mike Breen calls the games for the Knicks.
Chris, here it is, real quick. In Boston, he called Celtics games for WBZ and Red Sox games for WSBK before transitioning to a national. So that's why I'm saying.
So was that a big? I don't remember that being a big story. Was that a big?
Not a big story, but I just remember, he had an affinity for the Celtics because he worked for them and Bird. That's all.
Heinsohn is definitely.
Oh, he was a Celtic homer.
Yeah, totally. But I do think that'd be a factor. Rob, I've said it before. I'd love to see like a white American superstar in the NBA. We haven't had a real true superstar in a while.
What happened to White Chocolate? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he was fancy. He had moves. He could handle. The last one was probably who? John Stockton. But he was very reserved. Mikhail Stockton. Chris Mullin, I don't know that I'd even call him a superstar. He was a star.
Yep, Tom Chambers was a good player, but I'm just saying he had a high profile, right? Tom Chambers with the Suns.
I wonder about Chet Holmgren. I mean, the thing, Holmgren, and who I like, that's the 7 foot, I think he's 7'3", but 7 foot guy, 7'2", something like that, for Oklahoma City. And the thing, like, when you watched him, Rob, it was like, my goodness, he's hurt this year, but he'll be playing next year. Here's the problem for Holmgren, and they can obviously both coexist, but Wembanyama is like a better version of Holmgren. Like everything Holmgren does, it looks like Wembanyama does better. He's over 7 feet himself, well over it, 7'5". So he blocks shots, he shoots well, he handles. Like they play very similarly. It'd be great if Holmgren, I like him a lot. Oklahoma City could be a team on the rise. He's with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So maybe they could become stars together and that team could be in the mix. But it would be very interesting if that happens and just to see the reaction.